Welcome to In the Know. We're here to discuss Zion Williamson and just the news surrounding him this offseason and what we expect out of him going forward. So tune in. All right, Mason, let's get right into it. Zion Williamson, he showed up in Summer League, first of all, supported his teammates, watched a few games, and then he also appeared in a podcast interview with Gilbert Arenas, the No Chill podcast, and he was put on the spot actually to ask a bunch of tough questions regarding his diet and fame and all that stuff. And I thought he had interesting stuff to say. I think he commented on the difficulties of having access to the money that he has and just thinking that you're invincible and just the naivety of youth when it comes to that, and how he's had to reevaluate some of his decisions. And one of the terms he used was he's going to try to right some of the past wrongs. And so it seems like there is a positive trend with regards to Zion, and I think that coincides with some of the stuff I've heard off the record, where people around the team, this chatter started coming up actually since the Scoot stuff. It wasn't just like, hey, it just started happening. It was just during the draft process, and they were like, ironically, Zion's name is out there in all these trades. He hasn't been offered, but he's more involved with the team and the Pelicans and the city than ever. He's more bought in. So I'm curious on what your thoughts are on his comments regarding all of that, and just where you're at with that.
Yeah, I'm just glad we heard from him, right? I mean, like it feels like it's been a bunch of games of telephone. Like when it comes to Zion, whether it's from his stepdad or the team having to speak for him, things like that. And so hearing this type of honesty from him, hearing him, I feel like it's genuine. Like I feel like he decided it was time for him to go on record and say some of these things. And I think if he wasn't bought in, he'd still be hiding behind other folks and really not getting his voice out there. In fact, the fact that the fact that he's being so transparent about his process and how he's planning on changing, how he approaches just life, not just even just basketball. I mean, I think it's inspirational, and I really, hopefully it translates. I really obviously want him to stay healthy for a bunch of reasons, but I feel like if he gets hurt again, it could be, unfair. People could be unfair to him about just, reasons why. And even if he does make a material change, I mean, accidents do happen, and injuries will happen to people who, take care of their bodies the best way. And so just really rooting for him to have a successful year where he stays on the court. But, regardless, I think this is a meaningful step in the right direction. Glad it matches up to what you're hearing.
Yeah, I think acknowledgement is the first step. I'm not, fully ready to take the bait per se, but I think this is progress to say the least. Like you said, it's we don't hear from him himself often. It's usually proxies or otherwise. We just don't hear from him at all. So there's been that. There's also been a great deal of teammates who've come out and vocally expressed their displeasure in how he's covered and how he's treated in the media and that kind of stuff. And there's been a great deal of support from the team as well. So I think that's good to see, that at the very least, there's a united front, because that's not something you can take for granted in the NBA. I think guys will say all kinds of things. That's not something you take for granted. Like Draymond Green literally saying, like, I don't like Chris Paul the person, but we're men, we'll figure it out. Joel Embiid, in post-game press conferences after losing, has repeatedly thrown his teammates under the bus. This kind of stuff is not always lip service, even though it frequently can be and often ends up being. But look, the Pelicans have made the bet that Zion's going to stay healthy. That is the bet they are making. They've made the bet that Brandon Ingram's going to stay healthy. That is the bet they're making. They had options to bet against those things this summer, and they opted not to go in those directions. So ultimately, they are going to be judged, and Zion is going to be judged on the availability and the production in that availability. So that is the reality of the upcoming season.
Yeah. I mean, that's all it is. I mean, I enjoy what he said. I'm interested if this is kind of a new Zion from a media availability perspective. Are we gonna start hearing from him more? I mean, the long-term contract is the long-term contract. So, I mean, there's no changing at this point. So I'd love to be able to hear from the Pelicans, superstar franchise player a little bit more. And so this is, like I said, it's refreshing, and we'll see if it's legit coming up here in the season.
Well, that's the thing is, like, when he's healthy and he's playing well, I don't really care to hear from him. I mean, like, I do. Don't get me wrong.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Wrong. But my questions are strictly like on the court related to him. Like when I go like to the post game press conferences and you talk to him in the locker and that kind of stuff. I care to hear from him regarding what he thought about the game, what he thought about a certain coverage, what he thinks about the spacing with him and JV. Off court stuff literally doesn't matter, right? Because he's playing, he's healthy, he's winning. I got no concerns about that. It's just that when, like you said, when he's injured, and then there's not just an injury, right? Injuries happen to everybody. It's the continual setbacks, the continual delays, the continual like what actually happened, what is actually going on, what is actually the timeline, and then narratives start flying in with people like, oh, his teammates don't like him or blah blah blah, whatever it is. At that point, I'm interested in hearing from him, and traditionally we had not heard from him in those type of situations in the past. And one, because the way the CBA is, and not just the new one, the old one, it's just how it's been, that the player union has done their job really well here. The players are not obligated to speak to media when they're injured. That is one of the obligations that they are relieved from upon injury. And the players also have a great deal of control over what gets released in the press releases with regards to their injury. So like that is something that the Zion and his group have tightly controlled in the past. And now, like he's spoken out. You're right. It's progress, but if I lived in a world where I never heard from him, but he played all the time, I think I would much preferred that world than anything else. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, I hope he's healthy. I hope he plays. I hope the only questions that I have for him are strictly related to what's happening with the team and what's going on with the court.
Yeah, with you there.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning into this video, and see you on the next one.